Sound like it's on. Now it's on. Thank you, Jason. I'm Betsy Kerr, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, and we have the honor of conducting a formal forum for candidates who are running for office. We are strictly nonpartisan, and so I welcome you tonight to a forum for the Placerville City Council, and we welcome the candidates. And the League is a nonprofit organization of women and men established to promote political responsibility through informed, active participation in government. The League does not support or oppose political candidates or parties. However, after careful study, we do take position on political issues. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will make a 2.5-minute opening statement, and next the candidates will respond only to written questions. We don't take live questions from the audience. And they have been reviewed and consolidated so that if 3 people ask the same question, I'll just ask it once. And it'll be assured appropriate also. Don't ask any questions that are directed to one person. All questions have to be answered by all 6 candidates. And as the evening goes on, if you think of more questions, raise your hand. We have people who will bring you a card and then collect the card after you have written on it. Each candidate will have, I think 1.5 minutes to respond to each question, because we have so many candidates tonight. If there were just 2 candidates, we could allow more time, but you don't want to be here until 10 o'clock. And then they'll have 2 minutes, they'll have 2.5 minutes for opening statements, 2 minutes to respond to each question. A rebuttal will be for ½ a minute, and then they'll have 2 minutes to make a closing statement to summarize why they want to be on the City Council. And I will be alternating the opportunity to be the first to answer each question. In the interest of time and decorum, I ask you to hold all applause until the end of the forum. Now we have our candidates are Aaron Young, Dennis Thomas, Kara Taylor, Lena Cull, John Clarici, and Patty Borelli. So why don't we start with Patty for your opening statements.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the League of Women Voters of El Dorado County. As introduced, I am Patty Borelli and I'm running for re-election to the Placerville City Council. I will begin by thanking you for believing in me and bestowing the honor of electing me to serve you on this council. Since beginning my service with the experience I've gained, I feel my dedication to take on the challenges of our city's future continues to grow. I join with all of you in expecting well-maintained streets, functional infrastructure at a reasonable price, retail choices, and recreational opportunities and physical safety throughout our town. My background and participation in local government has given me deep practical knowledge to assist in bringing about the upgrades our residents want. I remain committed to sidewalk, street, and traffic improvements, public transportation alternatives, growing employment opportunities, and a vigorous arts scene. It is imperative that we continue to find ways to increase our city's income. Our staff has done a great job in securing grants, but they are few and far between. I am currently working with our police chief to develop a disaster preparedness plan for Placerville, and we are making great progress towards implementing this. During my tenure, the council presented the issue of an increase in our sales tax to help fix our deteriorating pipes and roads. You, the people of Placerville, approved this measure, and though it is a slow process, we are now beginning to see results. Highway 50 congestion through Placerville is of great concern to me, and I'm happy to say it is also being addressed through an established working committee with Caltrans, the El Dorado County Department of Transportation, on which I have served during my 3 terms with the council, and city staff. Always of utmost importance are our residents' stated priorities and needs. Placerville is a unique historic gem, and its essence is important to all of us who live here. My mission is to nurture our historic legacy while at the same time enhancing and improving our public spaces and providing new opportunities for business and residents. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Clarici. I'm currently a member of the Placerville City Council. Before that, I was on the Placerville Economic Advisory Committee, and also before that, I was on the Parks and Rec Commission. I was the president of Hangtown Little League and the El Dorado High School Boosters Club. I worked my way through college in a sugar mill and have a degree in forestry from UC Berkeley. I started coming to Placerville in 1976 and moved here full-time in 1982. My wife, Yvette, is in the audience this evening. She was born at Marshall Hospital, where she currently works. We met in 1977. Our 37th wedding anniversary is tomorrow. We have two children. Eva lives locally with her husband and owns a rafting company in Coloma. They have two children, Rala John and Ezra Joel. They are adorable. Adam lives in the Bay Area and is a police officer in Sausalito. He is getting married next month. I am self-employed as a consultant. I love this town and everything in it. What I love most about Placerville is that it is not a museum piece. It has a great history, but it is also a vibrant working community. Leadership requires an ability to appreciate and protect the past while accommodating the needs of the town as it is today. That means making sure our infrastructure works. I was a supporter of Measure L to help us fix our streets and pipes and been an advocate of showing the public how that tax money is being spent. And you can see that every day in projects now around Placerville, and you will see that more in the future. Providing a safe environment for residents and businesses. I will protect our police department from those who would want to contract it out to the county. Ensuring that the city is on a firm financial footing. I have helped craft 4 balanced budgets in my time on the city council. Sales tax is the lifeblood of providing city services. Reaching out to businesses of all types has been one of my passions while I'm on the council. We do have a number of challenges, however, and I'm sure we'll discuss them during this forum, so I won't get into them here, that will test this community in the next few years. I think I have demonstrated an ability to address similar challenges in my time. Oh.
You
ran
out of time.
Did I really? I always do that. Anyway, I humbly ask for your support. Thank you.
Good evening, Placerville. My name is Lena Cole, and I have not prepared a statement this evening because I am much better just speaking to the public. I grew up in this county. I live in this city. I just recently purchased a home in this city. Before that, I lived in Diamond Springs for 6 years, and I am current board president for an 80-home association in that area. I really enjoyed my time on that board, learning a lot of, the politics and understand board and policy. With that being said, how did I get there? We talk about it takes a lot of people to make everything great. It started when I first bought my first home. Obviously, I'm young. I'm a single mom of a 14-year-old daughter. Been doing it on my own for 13 years. Obviously, I have a new home, remodeling it on my own. Not as nearly much experience sitting on city board as I do other boards that I've been aligned with over the years. My family grew up in this community, so did I. I went to Rescue Elementary School. I went to Ponderosa High School, Consumnes River College. I valued so much about this community that I have my daughter attending Ponderosa High School as well, Pleasant Valley School, and Green Valley School before that. That being said, we're all people here, and it's so important for us to hear your voice. That's one of the reasons why I joined my board, the original board that I set. I've been board president for 2 years. My job is to listen to you. Obviously not as many boards as the others, as you can see my age. I'm 33 years old, but I like to make a stance in this community. I want to hear your voice, and sitting on board president, the way that I became president is by listening to you. And that's what I value about our community. I think that there's a lot of things that we could be working on. Obviously, our roads are huge. I live on Bluebell Court. It's a hill that was, composite of, a lot of mines. So there's a lot of work that can be done. I help Main Street. I work at a business, Thomas Kincaid Gallery, which I've always loved. Worked side by side with Tom for years. So I preserve his history within our city, which is a huge accomplishment for our town. With that being said, I love events. I love to be active in our community, and it's up to us as a team to get that done. So with that being said, I really appreciate your vote and look forward to working with you in the future.
I'd like to thank the League for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself to the voters of Placerville, and also the other candidates for being here. It takes a lot of courage to campaign, especially for all of us first-timers. I'm not a polished public speaker, so I have prepared statements. My name is Kara Taylor. I graduated college in 2008, the year the economy bottomed out. Like many Americans trying to find work, during those years, things were hard. Not excited with my options available to me, I decided to start my own business here in Placerville. In 2010, with the support of my husband, Zach, I took all our wedding money and savings, a mere $5,000 at the time, and launched Smoky Ridge Charcuterie. I made handcrafted bacon, sausage, and specialty meats, which I sold at the Placerville farmers markets and other local farmers markets, and also in Apple Hill. A couple of years later, the charcuterie provided full-time jobs for both me and my husband, and we needed a bigger place. So we opened the Farm Table restaurant in historic Main Street. At the time, no bank would lend us money for the restaurant due to our lack of experience, lack of collateral, and the riskiness of the restaurant industry. But I was determined, so I raised all the money needed from our amazing customers who were willing to bet on our success in the form of short-term microloans. A couple years later, we sold the restaurant and paid them all back with interest 3 years ahead of schedule. We bought a home in Placerville, and most importantly, some time together as a family. Placerville faces challenges as a small city with limited staffing and funding capabilities. I specialize in working with limited resources. Those years we spent working 80 hours a week with a young child. I thought a lot about quality of life and the simple things that matter most. Safe parks and roads, a community that cares for one another, being able to afford a reasonable work-life balance, good schools for our kids. The metric I will use for every decision I make on City Council will be, does this directly improve quality of life for the current residents of Placerville? I'm no stranger to hard work. If elected, I'll work hard for you. I'll do the research, I'll listen to you, I'll bring people to the table to improve public trust. I would be honored for your vote and the opportunity to represent your interests at City Council. Thank you.
My name is Dennis Thomas, and I first want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on and giving us the opportunity to share our story and share a little bit about ourselves. And I want to thank the audience for taking time out of your evening. I know everybody's busy, to maybe learn a little bit more about us and make a better informed decision. And then I want to thank the city for streaming this live and also recording it so it can be viewed in the future. I think that is important because a lot of people may not be able to make it out tonight. A while back I was asked, why are you running? And it kind of took me back a little bit because I want to be on city council, but that's a very shallow answer. And I really had to think about it. It took me a few days because it kind of sat there and turned in my head. About 20 years ago, I started thinking about city council. And the reason is my previous boss was Jerry Bennett, and he was on city council, and he'd come back to me, and we would talk about what was going on with the city. We'd talk about the events of, when Cottonwood was built, when the hill on Eschaton was cut and wasn't done right. We would talk about the really meat of the city. And I was like a kid in the candy store. I really enjoyed that. It kept my interest, and ever since then, I've had this desire to serve eventually at this capacity. And so fast forward to today, I'm president of the PDA. I've been president a couple times in the past. I've been active with PDA over the last about 25 years. I am currently the chairman of El Dorado County Fire District on the board of directors. When I was first elected there in 2012, we were faced with a $1.5 million budget shortfall that we had to correct within 3 months to send our budget to the county. And It took a lot of work, a lot of collaboration and negotiation between us and the union to, one, turn that around, two, turn that into $4.5 million of in reserves today, 6 years later, as well as replacing our entire fire apparatus fleet. It was no easy task, but it took the cooperation, and that's something that I bring to the city. One, the knowledge of the finances and the ability to work through these issues in a collaborative way. I've also served on the Planning Commission and received valuable experience dealing with our general plan, the housing element, and various other things, permits, a lot of things that people would come to the Planning Commission to discuss. As a business owner, I have commercial property, and I understand many of the challenges our businesses and property owners are dealing with in the city. And with that, I look forward to answering your questions this evening, and thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Dennis. And Erin?
Hi, I'm Erin Young. Let's see here. I was born in Marshall Hospital also. I suppose my hard journey started when I gave birth to my first son 17 years ago. I now have 4 sons, 17, 16, 12, and 7. I was a displaced housewife, and I had to stand up and pull myself up by my bootstraps. And so I started going to college about 13 years ago. I ended up with 2 associate's degrees, one in science, majoring in science, and then another one in occupational health and radiography. I currently have a license with the state of California as a CRT, CRT, radiologic technologist, and I also have a certificate through ARRT in radiography, and I'm currently going through a CT class through Folsom Lake College. Raising 4 kids and going to college is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. Recently, I have stood up and taken chair of the El Dorado County Wampanoag Nisenan Miwok tribe. They're the local indigenous that were here before the gold rush and the flood of people came in. I need to represent them and stand with my heritage. I'm also a secretary of my church's women's organization. I definitely represent hard work, raising 4 kids, and I'd like to be a part of the community and sit on city council and learn something new. It's definitely my constitutional right to sit on city council. Please support me in my new endeavor. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we are ready for the first question, and Patty will be the first one to get the first question. And this is, could you explain your understanding of measures H and L and what projects have been accomplished?
Okay, he told me 3 minutes, and you said we had 1.5 minutes. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure where.
1.5.
90 seconds. Okay.
Okay, 2.
It
This is
doesn't
a
matter.
long question.
Just tell me when to stop.
Just tell her when to stop.
Measures H and L are both concerning our road tax, which we passed as sales tax, and to improve our roads and pipes. Measure L was the latest one that we had. Measure H is a 1/4 cent. Measure L is the latest one that we have. It was a specific, what they call a specific tax. So it goes to, we can't use it for any other purpose. It goes to repair our pipes and roads. And we had to do that because our pipes are aging as well as our roads, and it doesn't make any sense to build a new road and then have something go wrong with the pipes and have to tear it all up and proceed from there. So that is, that's my take on Measure L. Again, we mention it all the time at city council meetings. We cannot thank our public enough for helping us out and agreeing to pass this tax. The first spectacular presentation of a finished project is in front of El Dorado High School. It's beautiful. And our next project will be Pacific Street, then Mosquito Road, and hopefully Spring Street. That Spring Street was supposed to be third on the list, but we ran into a few glitches, and it's going to be a little more costly than they thought it was in the first place, so that will be on. But you will see gradually all, from now on, your roads are going to be fixed.
Good. Okay, thank you. John, I'll read the question again. Could you explain your understanding of measures H and L and what projects have been accomplished?
Okay. As Patty mentioned, Measure H was a quarter-cent sales tax. I believe it was passed about 10 years ago, about the same time when we built the sewage treatment plant, and part of that money was used to actually help offset some of the sewage, the rates for sewage on the ratepayers' bills. It raises about $1 million plus a little bit more now a year. Measure L was passed in 2016 by, I think, 76% vote or something like that, and it raises over $2 million a year. It is absolutely essential. There is no money. I was an advocate of Measure L. I helped out with the committee that helped make Measure L happen, but of course it was the voters that really passed it, and we are thankful to them. There is no other kinds of money for infrastructure maintenance and repair by the state or the feds. You can get grants and stuff, but really there is not a lot of money for that. And so going out and making our own money is a real testimony to the people in the city for wanting to improve infrastructure. And of course, infrastructure is the foundation on which you build everything else in your town. It's hard to have a vibrant community if your roads and sewer and water systems are falling apart. It's rolling out now. It'll roll out more aggressively, and one of the things we're going to consider doing is maybe bonding some of the money, which would be taking some of the future money and bringing it forward, because Canal Street is looking like about a $5 or $6 million job. Spring Street is looking like that as well. And if you're only raising $2 million a year, obviously you would have to bank it. And we also want to show voters that their money's being done. Road projects, Placerville Drive, Green Valley Road, Canal Street. We've also done a number of sewer jobs. Measure H has done a bunch of sewer and water projects that are long to list. If you may recall, you may recall the project up there on Sacramento Hill. Thank you. Actually, it was 30 seconds. You may recall the project up on Sacramento Hill where they were doing a lift station and several trunk line repairs, and they also did some asphalt repairs. A lot of that money was Measure H and Measure L money being combined. So those are really, and then there are, as Patty mentioned, there's jobs being rolled out. There's some concern in the public about it not happening fast enough, but a little bit of that is also just the availability of contractors. Right now, the state of California is spending gajillions of dollars of SB1 money to pave just about anything that doesn't move. And so it's been a little difficult to get contractors. We are blessed, and we have two contractors in this town, Gordon Vicini and Doug Veerkamp, who work really well with the city and give us good prices on projects and do this town proud. Local contractors, local workers, local money being spent locally. I cannot imagine a better thing, and yet there are people in this room that fought us tooth and nail on Measure L. And I can't imagine a town without it.
Thank you. Lena, your answer can be a lot shorter since we've gotten the...
You got it. You know, it's almost hard to follow, to be honest with you. All I can piggyback, and I'm grateful for all the information, is my family members they're in construction, and we built our construction company out here in El Dorado County, and my dad actually helped support Measure H, and obviously young. We have a little bit of experience in putting measures on the ballot, but how important it is to utilize these measures that are out there, because we're talking about a historical city and improving our pipelines and our roadways. Obviously, we mostly have pothole issues and road issues, and by passing those measures was incredibly important for our city. And you are absolutely right in stating that we don't have enough funding currently, and how do we find the funding? And so small projects have to be done, and bonds have to be found, and different grants have to be submitted to look for those resources. But, you know, I think they both said it well on what the measure speaks of. Would love to be in support of that as well, and fixing every one of our roads, and really looking forward to Pacific Street being done. Really.
Thank you. Kara.
I agree with Lena that I think the first two candidates summarized everything very well. It is a testament to the the people of Placerville that they were willing to vote for tax increases for these measures, and just that people are willing to chip in and get the job done for important maintenance projects. I know that the city has been working hard on Pacific Street, getting that started, and Canal Street and Placerville Drive. So that's all good work. I was in support of Measure H and Measure L when it was on the ballot. So.
All right. Thank you very much. I was involved very heavily in supporting and helping draft a lot of the content for the marketing for Measure L. Measure L is an overlay of Measure H, and one of the beauties of Measure L is that it actually saves everybody money in our community. It allows our community swells by up to 17,000 people every day. People coming into our community spending money, and they're also using our resources, using our roads, using our sewers and water and the whole bit. So we have had the opportunity to allow the greater community that uses our city help pay for it. And that was a critical aspect and a selling point of Measure L, that instead of us paying $300 and some odd a year individually, household, now we're paying in the range of $70 in terms of increased taxes per household. So that was an important thing for people to understand. And I think we did a good job of educating the public, because it's a smart decision to save money that way and vote ourselves a tax. When it comes to the Measure H and Measure L, L was also important because it helps the city when we dig up the Measure H, dealing with the sewer pipes and water. When we dig those up, we're also disturbing the roads. Gives us an opportunity to also pave the roads. So those work really well hand in hand, and it helps save quite a bit of money on the Measure H side, and Measure L helps cover those costs of the roads. And Measure L was for not only roads, but sewer and water. One of the things as I see going forward with these two measures is that the cost of money. And the cost of money is important in that the cost is going up much greater in terms of construction costs than it is in terms of the growth of the money if it was sitting in the bank. So I strongly believe that we need to do bonding to get the money available now and pay it off in the future with a low rate interest, and get our roads paved now instead of waiting. And I think that'll save a considerable amount of money if we were to do something like that. So thank you.
So I definitely have to agree with John and Patty and Thomas and the girls. It's important to use our tax money to make sure that our roads are good. I was raised by a contractor, and correcting things to make them nicer is good. But what I don't want to see is have us pave the road and then go, oh, now we're going to tear it up, which is a waste of our taxpayers' money. So it's let's be wise about when we go forward on something like that, so that we do the work together, so that we're not throwing out money that we just spent. So I definitely like the idea of keep of our roads. The roads are so awful. My car's being broken down from it. So I really appreciate the idea that we pay in and we have our roads fixed. So I definitely support both of those.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, the next person. In view of the, thank you, continual increase in homelessness in our community, what are your plans to provide shelter and low-cost housing for the poor and disadvantaged residents of our community?
So I suppose you could say I'm really good for talking on this because I am poor. I help the homeless. I bring people to my house. I let them wash clothes in my washer and dryer. I give them rides to things. I know a lot of people who do this also. The only thing I can say to this is that being elected, I'll be able to find where the money is coming from, because I don't stand on the board to be able to know this information, it is really important. These people are lives and they matter. The hierarchy of needs is huge. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is huge. If you can't focus on the bottom, which is a roof above your head, food in your belly, you'll never be able to get higher, where it's taking care of yourself and caring about themselves. So we need to help these people definitely start with the basics, which is food and water and shelter. So I know that there's a lot of churches that already put forth effort taking care of the homeless during the nights. Different churches take different nights of the week, and I do believe that the city should potentially do something about it. And I don't know if that comes from trying to stop them from coming from wherever they're being dropped off in this community. But it definitely needs to address, and I'd like to be a part of that movement moving forward, because they're important lives also.
Okay, thank you. Patty, you'll be the next one to answer that question. You want me to read it again? In view of the continual increase in homelessness in our community, what are your plans to provide shelter and low-cost housing for the poor and disadvantaged?
Well, quite frankly, this homeless issue has come before our council many, many times. Our current mayor, Wendy Thomas, has, and also a commander of our police department, has sat on a committee with the county, and they and several other people, and they have been working diligently. I'm sorry to say, it sounds like a long time, 3 years, but the wheels of government turn so slowly, and in trying to find and solve situations, this is where we are. Wendy has assured us that they have found funding. With the city of Placerville, doesn't have a lot. We don't have the services to offer that the county does. So we have to rely on the county to provide certain, like mental health and those situations. So we are working in conjunction with them. They have our support monetarily. We've also gotten support from Barton Hospital, Marshall Hospital, to hire a person who would head this group through the county. And I know it seems like that we're not doing anything, but we really are. And our police department, our police department is probably the one entity that reaches out that we can rely on to help these folks in whatever way possible. We don't have the property to provide housing. Again, that's everything that we are working on is established through the county. And I quite frankly think that the homeless issue, a lot of it is the demands from the mental health, the hospitals. A lot of these people are ill. They can't help being homeless. And so that's where we are right now.
Thank you. John?
Thank you. Before I start, I want to give a shout out on the previous question. I just thought of this. I think everyone would share it. We have a Measure H&L committee that does a lot of work helping us with making those decisions about Measure H&L. I just want to get that out there because it's really important. The homeless situation is vexing, to say the least. My position has sort of evolved over time, and in fact, I've been talking to some of the other council members about it here just recently. My feeling is that, as Patty said, we're working with the county and the advocates and the other people that provide services through this thing called the continuum of care. But it is a long process. And the other thing, too, is that it's a process designed to get you money from certain sources, and those sources are going to have certain strings attached to the money they give you. And some of that, like, for example, if you take HUD money to start a shelter, you have to let everybody in without any kind of preconceived anything. You can't ask them to do anything. They show up on your doorstep, you provide them a meal, you provide them housing. The old models were, well, if you come in, maybe you can sweep the floor, maybe you can help out with something. The new model is you can't ask them to do anything. It's either good or bad, it's just a reality of what's going on. I have two things about it. One is that it's a very difficult thing for the community because my gut tells me that there's probably, if you took all the people that are homeless inside the city, the portion of them that are actually from the city is relatively small. It's like all the proportions, 20-80, 30-70 that are from outside the city and inside the city on a variety of things. I have come around to the idea that we will have to probably provide an emergency shelter this winter, and based on some criterion that actually exist, because unless we enter an ice age, the 3 or 4 days that they describe in the present criteria, it never happens, not in my life in this town. I think, though, that it needs to be on the west end of town and not on the east end of town. I think if we do something, we should look at the Armory or something like that. If that were to happen, I would suggest that we move the upper room down there as well. Upper Broadway has taken on a horrible burden with the homeless situation, and any solution to it cannot include Upper Broadway again. And the other thing, too, is that this is not just a Placerville problem. Placerville cannot be the place where all the homeless things begin and end. So the other thing that I have mentioned in meetings and talking to the county is, if there's one in Placerville, there's one in Shingle Spring, there's one in Cameron Park, and there's one in El Dorado Hills, because this thing has to be shared up and down Highway 50. Placerville cannot be the focus of this. We do not have the resources to pull this one off. It is something we have to address, though, and I think this year we're definitely going to have to take some action on it.
Thank you. Lena.
So homeless to me is really, really important. I work in education all over California, and so I travel cities, mostly San Francisco, and I see the homeless out there. And I am a people person, so I speak to everybody, and most of them have disabilities out there. Most of them are our veterans. I have a store on Main that I go out and I socialize with these people. And you are absolutely correct, John, in stating that, you know, the majority of the transients that we have here are coming from out of county. That being said, I think we're all residents here for long periods of time and know the temperature changes here. And I think it's important that we recognize that and absolutely put another location, not just in Pollock Pines where it snows. It's our responsibility to a lot of these people to take care of them. If you talk to them, a lot of them are veterans. You know, and if they're not, they're disabilities. And I am, like I said, I'm very much interested in helping people that need help, and a lot of them end up on the streets. So that being said, I think it's important that we get our churches together that have been helping support this, and we do a community effort. Social services absolutely needs to be involved. You're right about the city. It is definitely getting bigger than it ever has. Our county has social services available. I think that it's important, and I don't know if anybody else has talked about the homeless and talked to the homeless, but a lot of them don't have the resources to get to these locations. And that's another interesting reason why the homeless are here. You know, you would think that they'd want to go to places that were warm, like San Diego or Hawaii, but it doesn't always work that way. A lot of these people actually lived here their whole lives, and it's up to us to do the right thing. So getting the people who are actively already helping support the homeless, I think we need to get all in a room together, and I think we need to put our best foot forward with these people.
Thank you. Kara.
I agree that homelessness is a problem for Placerville, and I've been doing some research about it. It seems like there's two schools of thought here. One is that Placerville has too many services that attracts homelessness, and the other is that there's not enough to take care of them. I don't have all the answers. I would do the research in City Council. My instinct is that we need a combination of a safe shelter for people that need it and more policing for illegal camping that is a fire hazard and a public safety hazard downtown. I think we need to look at the studies that have been done and the work that's been done, which I haven't had the privilege of doing yet, with a fresh pair of eyes. We need to bring in state resources. I know there's money out there for state grants and government grants to tackle homelessness, and we need to bring those dollars to Placerville because we do need help. I don't think anyone's under the illusion here that the city has the resources to handle the problem on their own. So I guess in short, I don't have all the answers, but I agree that it's a problem and it needs to be a priority. And I think once something's a priority, then action happens. So I think it needs to be a priority on City Council this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dennis.
Thank you. I've had recent experiences attempting to help homeless that really needed some services, and I had a hard time myself tracking down the right people in the right places. And that's not to say they're not there. It was not readily available to me. And I work in the health field, and I thought that I could more easily contact people. So that was my personal experience starting off, and it really opened my eyes to the challenges of finding the services that people need. Our county recently received $1.4 million in a grant for homelessness and dealing with that. I think that's important to partner with the county. The county, in my opinion, the county's mental health and the county's public health system is ours. We do not have, the city does not have a public health system. We are not capable of taking care of these people by ourselves. It has to be, at the very least, a partnership, if not leaning very heavily on the county to do that. They get a lot of money. They have a lot of resources. They should be reaching out to us and helping us with this issue. I know we do not have the money to support shelters and to support the staffing required by the state to put on a shelter. It would literally bankrupt us. And so it's very important to build those partnerships with the county and with mental health. I am very interested in reaching out with mental health and in looking for them to come out into our community and meet the homeless where they are and start building those relationships with them and helping them realize that it's a safe place to go and seek this help. And it's only through those relationships that a lot of people will find that ability to do that. The county, I also scattered site models. I'm not a big proponent of having one site where everybody is taken care of. I believe that a scattered site model throughout our community, up and down Highway 50, having everybody in this county responsible for this and not just looking to the city to solve this problem. El Dorado Hills and Cameron Park do not deal with this issue like we do. People come here because we're the core. I think we should be tapping into all of them to help support this issue. Thank you.
Okay, Aaron. Oh, you've answered that,
I
haven't
could
you?
add something. Since I didn't quite use all of my time. As a Native American, we had bark houses before the white man arrived, and we were living off of the land. And we would travel up and down the mountain to get out of the snow and then get out of the heat. And I know that it's kind of a weird concept to think about, but that sometimes they don't have to live the way that we live. And I know that that sounds really kind of bizarre, like they need to live in shelters, but they just need to feel wanted and to be a part of the community. And I just kind of wanted to throw that out there, that it doesn't have to look the way that we think that it has to look. So just throwing it out that there's other opportunities and ideas.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, I have two questions here that are basically the same. I'll ask them both because they're just written differently. In your opinion, what holds the most potential for the economic prosperity of our city, or what type of commercial growth do you feel is compatible with our city? And the first one will be Lena.
Well, I think it's best that I represent the compatibility for development in our community, since my father is an electrical contractor in this community, and we've been doing it for over 35 years here. We've been working in local schools for that entire time in a lot of the residential areas, and that being said, we have a lot of knowledge of what our ground looks like and what's needed, and you know, obviously we have a big issue with developing in our community. It's not a very big community to develop. It's pretty much developed at this point. Right now we're looking at preserving our historical and cultural resources. That being said, it would be our roads and our sewer lines, and preserving our historical buildings to the best of our ability. This place, people come from all over the world. This is a destination location. People come here for the quaintness of it. It's our It's our duty and our responsibility for City Council and residents of this community to represent it well. And that being said, it has to look historical and keep that quaintness and that look and feel. Keep that paint that was historically known. If we have a building that needs to be fixed, let's repair it historically into the format that it was needed, obviously within the fire guidelines and every guideline that we have in the state of California. But as for development in our community, because it's so built out, we have to fix the foundation of our town. It was a gold mining situation that I live on a hill that's full of mines. I have sinkholes all the time. You know, it's up to us to fix those things, preserve our history, and as for development, fix what we have, fix what's broken. Let's do that first, and then we'll talk about anything outside of this city. But for now, it's pretty much grown.
Thank you. Kara?
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah. In your opinion, what holds the most potential for the economic prosperity of our city, or what do you feel is what kind of growth is compatible with our city?
So in terms of economic prosperity, this is a tourist area, which has its pros and cons. I think we need to support the tourist industry with more boutique hotels and lodging. But I also think that there's downfalls of the tourist industry, such as business only on the weekends or only during certain times of the year when businesses are already very busy. And we need to do things to promote, business downtown during the weekdays, such as bringing in schools, vocational schools, things like that, where there's people there during the day that are going to be shopping and eating and going downtown and using our resources. I think that we really need to work with the Chamber of Commerce and support a buy local plan, which will also help with the weekday business and kind of help moderate the ebbs and flows of the tourist industry. In terms of development, there's a general plan in place. I was reviewing it recently. I think the general plan for Placerville is pretty good and does a good job protecting our historic resources and allowing for property rights and building. There's still a lot of empty lots that could be built out within the general plan. So I don't think that we need to make big changes. I think in terms of development, focusing on development that benefits the residents of Placerville, development in existing neighborhoods where sidewalks and roads will be fixed as part of that plan, pipes will be upgraded. That's the type of development I would like to see.
Okay,
Thank you.
Dennis, potential for economic prosperity.
Yes. When I hear those words together, and you think about Placerville, I think about our historic nature, and I also think about balance, and balancing our growth with our historic qualities. A lot of things that people come to this town to see, whether it's Gold Bug Mine, it's the downtown and that unique experience that people really enjoy. We have three different economic parts of our town. We have Broadway, we have Placerville, we have Main Street, that core, and then we have Placerville Drive. Between those three, Placerville is, the downtown core is fairly built out. We could look at helping inspire new businesses to come in that might have a higher tax base. But the reality is our economic engine is going to grow from sales tax, period. We're not going to grow by everybody putting more money into the city to help pay for this. This is a zero-sum game right now. If we don't find more money to come in to our community, we'll stay stagnant. If we stay stagnant, we have a lot of looming issues financially that we will not be able to meet in terms of our obligations. So growth is critical to this. And this growth and prosperity is going to happen not in the core of downtown, but I believe, and also it's going to happen on Placerville Drive and potentially Broadway and Upper Broadway. And it's the idea, right now the city is contracted with a company called HDL that goes out and looks at attracting businesses to come into our community, and not just any business. We don't want big box everywhere USA. What we want is businesses that match our character, that bring value to our community, that provide products that we need. And at the same time, we should work to match those with the property owners and properties that we have available for build out. And I think it's critical. I think growth is critical. I think maintaining our historic nature of our community is also critical. Thank you.
Okay, Aaron?
Can you repeat it one more time?
In your opinion, what holds the most potential for the economic prosperity of our city, or what type of commercial growth do you feel is compatible with our city?
So I suppose the concern that concerns me the most is what stops growth. I have worked at a private vocational school, and one of the hardest things that school had to deal with is laws, red tape, bureaucracy, fees. It is enormous, and it is really hard for small businesses and schools to even get off of the ground because of the red tape and stuff that stops them. It would be easier for people to start businesses or bring them here if they didn't have to deal with a lot of that. Historic downtown is huge, and having people come here, like Lena said, that are tourists, they're coming for a vibe, and taking away some of the local things like the courthouse where people are coming down to Maine, slow things down. So trying to not develop more rules or laws or fees that stop and hinder some of this growth would be probably best to help drive that engine, to help bring those things that allow money to be brought in and spent here. Another opportunity that I'm thinking that helps prosperity is being able to open up the doors. I'm currently in a CT program, and if it wasn't for the school that I was working at, I wouldn't have the opportunity to know some of the connections in the community for me to be able to do my CT externship. I reached out to our local hospital and they denied me the opportunity. How am I supposed to educate myself if the facilities around me won't open their doors? So lighten up on some of those rules and we might have a little bit more prosperity.
Okay, thank you. Patty?
Well, I'm in total agreement with what Dennis said. We have to grow in such a way to increase our sales tax. We pretty much live and die by sales tax. It's our major income. We have a wonderful staff that people can come to and they will confer with them and give them, we have a program where folks have an idea, they can come to staff and they can talk it over with them. They're more than willing to help businesses and give them suggestions. A good example is the Home Depot. And I will be very honest in telling you that if it weren't for Home Depot and Thompson's Auto Store, I don't know that we would have made it through the recession. They're two entities that have generated a lot of income tax. Our downtown is the most wonderful magnet for promoting and bringing in tourism, but we need people to shop in our stores. We need to encourage that. And another thing that we need hotels. We need more than one hotel. We're in close proximity with Apple Hill, with South County and their wineries. None of these areas are going to be able to have a hotel. If we could just establish them here and make this the starting point and have folks stay here and then visit those different entities, then they would come back here, they would shop here, they would go to our restaurants, etc. So this is what I'm concentrating on. We also, I think, have to look at the space that is available for probably a larger than just a one store would be Placerville Drive, and maybe a couple areas on Broadway too that I would like to see improved. So that would certainly enhance our.
Great. Okay, John.
Okay. Repeat the question, please. Repeat it, please.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what holds the most potential for the economic prosperity of our city, or what type of commercial growth do you feel is compatible with our city?
See, I respectfully disagree. To me, those are actually two different things. The number one industry in Placerville is healthcare. Tourism is a huge thing. It brings a lot of people. Lots of people run through town because they come and visit and they're tourists. But if you wanted to look at the industry that employs the most people, pays the best wages, and has the best perks, it's Marshall Medical Center. It's healthcare and all of the things around Marshall Medical Center. There are 1,600 employees on the Hill right now. The second biggest industry in Placerville is government. Now, those don't create taxes, though. Those create good jobs, and that's why we have a pretty high median income. I think we got a report from HDL, and it said that our median income is only slightly lower than El Dorado Hills, which, if you think of Placerville, is pretty staggering. Now, if you talk about commercial, so if you're focusing on things that pay the bills in terms of the city, then you're talking sales tax. If it wasn't for Home Depot, we probably would have closed the doors on this town back in 2010, because it generates, we don't get to know what the numbers are. That's only one person in town knows that, and that's Dave Warren, and he hides those secrets. But they were the number one sales tax generator. If you don't take Ron Thompson's all as one. Despite what everybody, and we do need a lot of hotels, and we need not boutique hotels. We need hotels that hold about 120 people, and we need about 3 of them. Those people spend more money every day. They'll spend more money downtown than the people that drive through. The people that drive through maybe spend $100. If you stay overnight, you're going to spend $300 or $400. But we talk about, well, we'd like it to be this way. If you ask me, I'll probably guess wrong. If you said, what should be the next store in Placerville, I will guess wrong. Because if I knew the answer to that question, I'd be the wealthiest man in town. People don't like big boxes, but that's where they shop. They shop at Home Depot, they shop at Walmart, they shop at Target. That's where they go. And if you don't accommodate that somewhere around this part of the world, it's not that they'll go shop at some little store in town. They'll just get in their car and drive to Folsom. And so we always have to ask that question, do we want them driving to Folsom and spending money, or do we want them coming to Placerville and spending money? Because if they stay in Placerville, then they'll go downtown and get something to eat. They'll go downtown and buy a picture. They'll go downtown and do something. But if they're driving to Folsom, they'll spend all their money in Folsom. And that's why my big thing is I don't want to predict who's going to go where, because that's a corporate decision made by people in cities way far away from here. But you have to be open to that, and that gets to some of the regulations, though I think our staff is very good and very accommodating when it comes to folks that have businesses in town. But just remember that the number one industry in Placerville is healthcare, by a lot probably, if you actually totaled up all the numbers that get pushed through Marshall Medical Center every year. Tourism brings people to town, and it's beautiful, and I love Main Street. But there's a lot to that question, and 90 seconds is not nearly enough time.
Thank you.
As I just demonstrated.
Kara, I'm going to give you the privilege of answering this first. What responsibility does the city of Placerville have in considering and acting on critical planet issues, such as climate change, lower pollution, fuel sources, recycling, water conservation, open space, etc.? Just a little question.
I think I need to write that down.
Would you mind listing all those again?
Not at all. Climate change, lower pollution, fuel sources, recycling, water conservation, open space, critical planet issues.
Okay.
What can Placerville do?
Okay, when it comes to fuel sources for fire hazards, we definitely need to deal with it as a city. That has the potential to affect all of us. So working with the county to make sure that we are clearing fuels for wildfire. When it comes to lowering pollution, there are ways to make roads more efficient. I think that's pretty much the only thing that the city can do in terms of that. There's, the disposal. With the farm table restaurant, we throw away a lot of food waste. I know that there's been plans to do a food waste program. Somebody's come to the restaurant to start implementing that, but then it never went anywhere. I think that would be great. But I think that the city's hands are pretty tied when it comes to dealing with global issues. I don't have any illusions as a potential council member that I'm going to save the world. I think that when it comes to those things, though, those are decisions that residents can make on reducing the pollution that they make and living with a smaller footprint. And, you know, I try to do my part. I think that the people of Placerville, many of them do, but as a city, I think the resources are pretty limited to deal with those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Dennis?
Well, I hear roundabouts are really good for saving... Roundabouts are really good for saving our air quality, but I don't think we have those anymore, so I'm going to move on. And I'm fine with that. I don't care. Yeah. Really, this is an issue of balance and how much what we can do in our city, balanced with how many regulations we want to place on the residents of our city. And there are a lot of good things that individuals can do. You know, like we consolidate our garbage so it gets recycled and it doesn't. I personally, I spend quite a bit of money every year taking drugs off the street so they don't go down the toilets and create problems for our waterways. You know, it's things that individuals can do, and there's a fair amount of education that we can do on an individual basis. I don't know that our government, the city government, is prepared to start passing regulations, nor do I think the city would want that. But I do believe that education, personal responsibility, partnering with the county, and finding ways to elevate our understanding of the things that we do and how it impacts our environment are critical and something that all of us can do. So I'm going to leave it right there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Aaron?
Okay, so we know that I'm Native American, and we know that we lived on the land for years, thousands of years, before any plastics were created. This topic of recycling and lowering our carbon footprint was a really hard one for me to eat when I started to investigate what was going on in our oceans, and it caused me to start looking at individual packagings of things. Is this really necessary? Like I've heard, you know, I don't know how much the city in itself can employ. Recycling in my home is huge. As a little girl, my mom worked at a recycle facility. I encourage my kids to be entrepreneurs and go around to our neighbors and say, we'll collect up your cans just so that they can make some money. But in the big scope of things, I think it comes down to educating people and encouraging individuals that it becomes something down inside of them when they start to realize that one placard that they use adds to the big blueprint that all of us do. So, I mean, it's huge. The fuel of when we talk about the trees being burned and the wildfires, if it was up to me, and this, I don't think it comes down to the city, you know, tap into the oil wells and there's fuel, if that's what you're talking about. But if we're talking about fire fuel, you know, burning prior to forest fires is a huge thing to do beforehand. So, but, you know, I don't know how much the city can actually do that. But you never know. We could always come up with a plan and start something off.
Okay. Thank you. Patty?
Yes, I have to say the city works well with and these are, I'm going to just name these departments that I feel add to helping the pollution issue. El Dorado Transit, for instance, using their transportation, their buses, et cetera, instead of always jumping in the car and going places. We have a really good working with the El Dorado disposal. It's wonderful what they do. They come to us yearly to talk about their rates, and then we always get a report on things that they're doing. And I think that company really deserves a big hand in what they've done to help a lot along the lines of this pollution. We have I think it's a twice a year where we have a collection for people to bring their unwanted products, and we dispose of them. Our fire department, we work with them hand in hand, and that has to do with a lot of, that party. And we offer, like I say, all of these departments offer suggestions, and I couldn't agree more, though. I think it finally comes down to us as individuals to study this and try to combat this problem, and it is a big problem.
Thank you. John?
Could you give me the list again, please?
Sure. What responsibility does the city of Placerville have in considering and acting on critical planet issues such as climate change, lower pollution, fuel sources, recycling, water conservation, open space, etc.?
No, yes. Okay. All right. Obviously, we're not going to do anything about global climate change. We could have a nice discussion about it, but we're not going to do anything about that. The first two, the first three is in the event. Obviously, recycling and that sort of things. We do work with El Dorado Disposal. We do our best. We encourage folks in the city to do that. Fuels, we did buy 2 electric motorcycles, but that was mostly so that you could ride around on the trail and not scare people. And we do try to get more fuel efficient vehicles, but really fuels, I'm not even sure what that means. The one thing we did do, we took action on, and it's funny because it seemed at the time like something that people would really glom onto, but I don't know if it's had that much of an impact, is we actually made it possible for people to buy and install solar panels on their homes and then run it through their property taxes, which means you have a lien on your tax, but you get to pay for it it was a benefit because you can pay through your property taxes. There's some tax benefits to doing that. I thought it was a HARP or one of those. HARP, was it HARP? Okay. It was I think I was the mayor. I don't know. But something like that. But there's things like that we can do. And we can also encourage people. Now, the other area where we do have some influence is water and sewer. Now, conserving your sewer is an interesting thought. But conserving water is a big deal. But it's funny, if you ask people to conserve water, that means they use less of it and then they pay you less money, and then that actually impacts your budget for your water and sewer operations. But in terms of getting people to conserve, have more Zone 7, I think we are in the Sunset Magazine, Zone 7, appropriate sign of vegetation in their yards and stuff is something that we can be part of. And I do think we actually put that information out to people so that they understand that there's water-wise ways to do things. Certainly in our operations, we try to be, we try to be as thrifty with our water and energy. We actually just set up a program where we're going to replace a bunch of HVAC systems because the old ones are old and they're falling apart, and new ones are more efficient and don't use as much electricity, which saves money and the taxpayers' money. So the city has taken some actions, but they're kind of around the edge kind of stuff. And the global climate thing, we'll just leave that to the governor.
All right. Lena.
So growing up in this community, I've seen a lot of really interesting things happen. Our community is generally, of an older generation, and the younger generation has an easier way of getting around. So piggybacking on what Patty said about our public transportation, I think it's important for us to have more local resources for our buses so people can, one, reduce our footprint, but two, have access to these bus stations and local resources that they can actually use them more often. So often do I see the El Dorado Transits empty. Coming from Diamond Springs into Placerville, the bus station that they state is a bus station. It's unfortunate because a lot of people don't take it. It's too far away for people to walk. I think that encouraging our transit station would definitely help with the pollution that we have currently. Just taking pieces of what everybody said here, I piggyback off of Cara as well because, I work on Main. We share the same dumpster, right? We all share the same dumpster. And I think it's important for us to look at the food waste that's going on. We all have food waste. And I think, traveling through small towns all over California, I go to like the Mendocinos and the Super Green Footprints to encourage, our residents to utilize these waste bins. And I think that would definitely help with that situation. And I highly encourage it. It's very simple to do. We can create better soil and, definitely encourage, the cleanliness of our waste. Waterways, just want to touch on that really quick. I've had the privilege of working with the Tahoe Conservancy building their technology department for the last 15 years. And I applaud them for what they're doing to keep Tahoe blue. They build dams, to preserve our water and to slow the process down. And I think that, as a city council member, it's important to look at those bigger footprints of people who've been doing it much longer than us so we can help provide that. Water is huge in our county and our city. And because we're so close to it, I think that there's a lot of controversy around it. And I think it's important for us to really, really look at that as serious as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you. All right. Dennis, all right, Kara?
Not really a rebuttal, just a statement of support. I completely agree with Lena on the public transit. Failed to mention that in my part, but I work with employees that use public transit. It takes a really long time to get around on it, which deters people from using it. And I realize that it's kind of a chicken and egg argument. Do you have the funds to, have more buses when there's not the ridership? But I think public outreach for public transit would go a long way, especially as the population changes and more millennials are coming to take up more of the, the population of our community. So.
Okay. Dennis, you get to be the first.
Could I have just a couple minutes?
You have a rebut?
I have
Okay.
sat on the Transit Commission for the 3 terms that I've been on, and it's so difficult. It's all about supply and demand. And if they have established many routes that we've had to discontinue because it just wasn't economically feasible for them to do it, I really have to, though, give them, I want to take up for them because they do a wonderful, wonderful job. And I hearken back to the days when my mom was still alive and she spent most of her time at home because she had no transportation. Unless I took her. And through the transit department, they do provide a lot of transit for folks that need it. So I just want to give a shout out for them.
Okay, thank you. All right, Dennis, you get to be first on this question. Do you support county workers obtaining a fair and competitive wage in order to provide high-quality services to your constituents? Yes or no?
So the question is, do I support county workers, El Dorado County workers getting a fair wage
Yep.
so that they can support the people in the city? Mm-hmm. Okay. There's a fair amount, actually, there is some truth to that. There's a fair amount of people that do support our city when it comes to public health and a few other areas of the county. And I think, and I believe in a fair market. I believe that competitive wages are important. One for our community and for our state. I also believe minimum wage is a good thing because I think a lot of people would take advantage of people in an inappropriate way. And so, with that said, the answer is yes. I do support a fair living wage for county workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron?
Being paid fair is important, or we don't live. So yeah, supporting the job, if it's a job well done, is something that should be supported. If it seems like it might be a job that is useless, then it probably should be taken away. Now, do I want to say that personally about somebody because I don't know anybody that job would need to be taken away? No, absolutely. Wages are important. Making sure that people have an opportunity to live and pay bills is huge. So yeah, supporting jobs through the county that can support the city is important.
Thank you. Patty?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. Do you support county workers obtaining a fair and competitive wage in order to provide high-quality services to your constituents?
I'm questioning whether they meant city instead of county, because we're not talking about the county tonight, we're talking about the city. So I'm going to give an answer that I support our city workers getting a fair and decent wage. We go through this every year at budget time, and it is so important to give. I feel our staff is deserving of the best, and sometimes it's hard to give the best when you're under the budget that we are under. If you don't pay your workers a decent wage, you don't have a decent worker. That's the way I feel about it. And we wouldn't have a well-run machine like we have. Mm-hmm. So that's my answer.
Okay, good. John?
Yeah. Context. Yes, I agree, because we have some city workers over here, and they're really good, and we should pay them what they're worth. And I don't just say that. They are really good at what they do. We are actually blessed in this community. Our staff, from management down to the very bottom, is excellent. I work all over the state, and I actually am staff in other two governments and through consulting, other small cities and counties. And when I see what we have here in Placerville and what I encounter when I go to some of these other places, it is remarkable. I won't go so far to say that they should get more money, because then they would ask us for more money, and we don't have it. You need context. The folks that live in this town need context. We lost 29% of our operating budget in the Great Recession. That money never came back. The curve got lowered, and then it just did this. So any projection you might have taken from that and took it out, we still have that, even with inflation. In fact, in real dollars, we just got back this last year. It was 10 years ago in terms of our discretionary budget. The staff has been working like mad with far fewer resources. And I think that's something that we all need to understand. Yes, we do the best we can. As Patty said, we do the best we can, and we try to recognize that our workers are excellent, and we try to give them good wages. Yes, I am in favor of that. And I've supported the budgets that we've given some raises and tried to show love and all that other stuff. But the folks around here need to know that. I mean, the city is incredibly efficient. It works with far fewer people than it did before, and it shows. We really do need probably one or two more, or maybe more people at the sewage treatment plant. We need at least one or two more people on our public works crews. We need at least one or two more police officers. And this gets back to the whole business thing and sales tax and everything else. We need to start figuring out a way to get that money here so that we can start backfilling against all that, because we definitely need those good workers like we have. We need more of the good workers that we already have.
Okay. Lena?
Behind every good employee is a good wage. That is what my boss and my mentor had told me. I truly believe that working together as a team is huge. Sometimes working in small packs is more mighty. Paying good workers good wage helps reduce the many workers that don't care about their job. Passionate workers get paid well. I am blessed that I work for a job that it is a small footprint, but a mighty business. And with that, we get paid well because we do a good job. And so again, just to repeat myself, behind every good employee is a good wage.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Kara?
Yeah, as an employer, I used to decide how much I would pay people based on how much money I had and how badly I needed those skills. And I think that that's what the city does too. I think that's just how employment works. If we want good workers, I agree with everybody, we need to pay good wages. And I agree that we have really good city workers. So I support good wages for city workers, and the same goes for county workers and workers of all businesses. It's just, good wages equal good employees.
Okay. Thank you. We have been sitting for an hour and 20 minutes. I would like to take 3 minutes, give you a chance to take a swallow of water, walk around a little bit.
Before
And-
you do that, I would like to chime in on this a little bit more because they redirected the question, and it's an important question.
Okay.
If you don't mind me taking just a few more of your seconds there before you stretch. I believe that our budget is a zero-sum game. Right now it is. When we take away from one area of our budget, it goes to another area. We are not making money. And so I think it's important. We dealt with this in the fire district where we had a $1.5 million shortfall. 88% of our budget was labor. And the only place we had to cut was labor in order to make up. We laid people off. We did a lot of the same things the city did when it came time to do that. It's about making really tough decisions when it comes to labor and it comes to city and city management. And that is a very important thing to remember. We don't make money. When we pay labor a higher wage, it's taken away from something else. So it's a balancing act between all of the resources the city has and where they apply it. I really believe in paying a fair wage for everybody. And there's limits on what a city can do. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, get up, walk around a little bit, and I'll call you back in about 3 minutes. Okay, let's see. Patty, I'm going to let you be the first one on this one. Please discuss the Clay Street and Main Street intersection.
Okay, how would you like me to discuss it?
You're going to blow it up.
It's been a very controversial issue.
What are the pros and cons?
I'm sorry?
What are the pros and cons of what to do?
Right now, we have still not been presented with the final map and what is being proposed for that whole area. So I'm not too sure that I officially am going to comment on it because I quite frankly, I'm all about, I want to beautify that whole corner. And I think it has so much potential, and that's what I want to see done. And I am waiting for this final presentation from the firm that we have hired to draw up all the plans for it. So
Okay.
That's where I'm coming from.
All right. John?
All right, yeah, we're waiting for the environmental document to be given to us, and that's probably going to happen in early November. So the draft, they call it a draft, it's after several iterations, but that's what's coming to us. I have supported this project from the first time I heard about it. This is what I think. I don't think if 100 years ago you could have talked to the people that built the Clay Street Bridge, and if you'd have sat there and said to them, yo, by the way, the town you're talking about will be not 1,600 people, but almost 11,000 people, and that there will be 1,600 people working in a hospital just upstream from this intersection, and there'll be a school that employs about 300 people upstream from this location, and there'll be a whole county out Cedar Ravine that didn't even exist when that bridge was built, not to mention the stuff developed on the other side of town. I don't think they would have said, don't ever change this bridge because we have built the best bridge that could ever be built and you should never change this. Remember one thing, Placerville is about change. Everything in this town has changed. Now parts of it are still the same. Main Street, a lot of it's still the same. But if you go around town, a lot of it has changed. I think we need to align the roads. We're building a road across a parking lot, folks. That's what this job is. It's a road across a parking lot. When they tore down the Ivy House, they talked about doing this project. They just never did. That bridge is not wide enough. You cannot put two cars and a human being on that bridge at the same time. It is unsafe. It is functionally obsolete. Yes, it'll probably stay there, unless you've dropped a bomb on it, it would stay there, but it is functionally obsolete. It does not serve the needs of this town like it should, and we should do this project. We can build a bridge that looks just like the one that's there, and we can make our own history, and I think Patty's right. I think we're being a little, well, not we, because I want to do this project. Folks are being a little short-sighted about what could be done there. I think that whole area could be better than it is now. Thank you.
Okay. Lena?
So I'm definitely a little controversial about this. The project has changed many times, so it's hard to give a good understanding of what it looks like now to comment on how I feel about the project as a whole. That being said, I've been blessed with an older sister who we used to fight like cats and dogs as kids. But she became an archaeologist and one of the best in California. And I don't say that because she's my sister. I say that because she is. And she lives here in Placerville, and she's done a study on that bridge. In fact, she has a lot of passion for that bridge. If you look at that bridge as a whole on my side, you're not just looking at the bridge, you're looking at the wall that supports that bridge, that supports those buildings on that bridge, aligned with that creek side. Not sure, obviously I'm not an archaeologist of how that is, but I know that rock wall is incredibly historical. Furthermore, there's a lot of drainage in that area that needs to be addressed. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that bridge or looked at it from the bike path, but it's not just a bridge with a tunnel. There's actually 2 tunnels running on that. One that used to be a mine that, people would run through, and that's a lot of drainage that comes through there. This is just for my understanding. And so if we are going to create a new bridge, it's not just a bridge that we would normally see as a bridge. There's 2 tunnels there that need to be addressed, and drainage is a huge thing. And in preserving that wall, I think that we need to do a really decent study on that wall to see what significant impact that would be, including that creek that's right there. So I really I can't state, my personal feelings on it right now without seeing that final document. But if I were on city council, I'd be definitely interested in preserving some of that historical notion there.
Okay, thank you. Kara?
Not currently on city council. I'm not privy to all the details of the current state of this project, but this has been a long, ongoing, controversial issue, and it's been very interesting to watch. I think that the roundabout project and the Clay Street Bridge project and its failure in the past has served as an important lesson to the city of Placerville that the people of El Dorado County do not want change forced on them, and that if there's no community support, the project will fail. Not only will it fail, but we'll end up with punishing ballot measures that make future projects even more difficult. So if I have the pleasure of serving on city council, I will definitely make it my priority to get community support for projects that ultimately will improve the quality of life for the residents of Placerville. But it's clear that without that support, it's just a dead end. So, thank you.
Okay. Dennis?
This has been an extraordinarily interesting process to watch, all the way from the beginning, dealing with the roundabout and taking that off the table, to going through this EIR process, the lawsuits, the whole bit. It is, like John said, it's a bridge. It's an old bridge that, in my opinion, does need to be replaced. It is, it has a lot to do with the EIR, and there's, at some point, you have to, one, trust your city staff. It's trust and verify, but trust your city staff to do their due diligence, to do the work for the city, for the people of the city, and for the council, to develop, to work with and develop an EIR that's comprehensive. And it's my impression in talking with the city staff that they have gone above and beyond to develop this EIR that addresses every possible issue that has been brought up and dealt with. It is, and I think from a city council perspective, it's very important to respect your staff, to give them the latitude to do their job, and then to give them the respect as well as challenge them to do the best job they can. And I think this council has done that. And I think that I look forward to seeing what the EIR comes up with and see how they address all the issues that were presented in that document. And I'm reserving judgment until I do see that. So thank you.
Okay. All right. And everybody has answered that?
I didn't.
No, not quite. Aaron?
Maybe I shouldn't speak about it. So before I decided to run, Standing as a community member, when I heard that they were going to tear down that bridge and change where the Druid statue sat, my heart sank. It was almost upsetting to me. That area of town, all the way down, is very historic. It does not need to be moved. It does not need to be changed. Does it need to be repaved? Absolutely. I do not believe that there is enough traffic that runs through that little itty-bitty bridge to warrant major changes. What I've noticed is that the community, as I talked to my friends, they were like, what are they doing? We didn't want a roundabout. We didn't want them to repackage it at a four-way. If you've ever been to a huge four-way stop, it's one of the hardest things to get through because you don't really know whose next turn it is, and then it just turns into a light, and then we've lost the context of making things historic. Let's focus our money on things that really matter. Let's look at broken down, dilapidated buildings that need redone. Let's bring in other things and not worry about petty things. If it's all about that road, then you can't turn left there. You put up a simple sign, you can only go right, and those who live on the road will go the other way and come out Mosquito and get on the freeway that way. Ruining that area would take away from the historic significance of it. It may rock the Cosmic Cafe, and there's controversy over that being closed right now. We need to keep the fact that it's historic, and leave well enough alone and stop spending our money.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now I'm going to have you be the first on the next question. It relates. How would you protect and honor our historic past while facilitating appropriate growth so our city can remain relevant and vibrant?
One more time. Will you say it one more time?
Sure.
Just make sure.
How would you protect and honor our historic past while facilitating appropriate growth so our city can remain relevant and vibrant? So it's mostly about history.
Let's see here. Honor and protect. Well, I know that protecting the corridor and turning it into a historic district is huge. We see other communities that do this in their cities where they protect what is old. We're not El Dorado Hills, where we are able to just grow endlessly. There's not a lot of old there. Okay, Clarksville is there and it is old, but nobody touches that area. To honor it is to say leave well enough alone. How would we facilitate new things? I think we need to focus on Upper Broadway and bringing more businesses to that area and being able to fix up the dilapidated buildings that are already standing. We need to focus on that stuff, and that will help bring more money into the community. So we definitely need to leave well enough alone, but at the same time be very, very gentle about the movements that we do so that we move in the right direction to make sure that our streets and our roads and our sewers are maintained, but at the same time protected and honored in a sacred way.
Okay. Patty?
Surprise.
I caught you.
I think we've done due diligence in protecting our history and moving forward. I hear every once in a while accusations that our council has gone about destroying our town, and I question. I really would like somebody to point out exactly what I have contributed to destroying anything in our town. I think that our downtown, I said it before, our downtown is a wonderful little magnet for drawing tourism in, and why on earth would we ever want to destroy anything about it, any of these buildings? Broadway and Placerville Drive, there's history there, but I tell you, on both ends, we used to have pear orchards, and there's not too much. I mean, that's all been destroyed. And speaking of that, I grew up here as a little kid, and if you guys knew of the history that has been destroyed, you'd be shocked. We've lost an awful lot. in those days, folks were just interested in becoming modern. I remember hearing it. My dad was in business. I was a Main Street brat. And I remember hearing people saying, oh, now we're getting rid of this ho-dunk image and we're going modern. And it's unfortunate, but they didn't realize, they did not know how much history was going to be revered and how much we all appreciate it now. So I'm going to say that nobody is ever going to be able to accuse me of destroying history in order to continue our March 4th.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of build on what Patty said about, we get accused of destroying Placerville a lot, and yet every morning when I wake up, I drive downtown and it's still there. And what's amazing is it is as if I've been coming to this town since 1976, and there was a time when downtown was dead, and it wasn't great because there was a transition in shopping. There was a bunch of socioeconomic reasons why. This downtown bears no resemblance to that. The other thing too is, and folks tend to forget this, we own one building on Main Street, and that's Old City Hall. Everything else is owned by private citizens, and it's private property. I have a huge respect for private property. No one is telling them to tear anything down. No one's doing that. I think you can have both. I think that the folks out there that say that you have to save history at all cost, and I think this kind of speaks to this Clay Street thing, I think don't give this town enough credit. Remember one thing, this town started with change. They changed the name of the town. When they incorporated Placerville, it was Hangtown. They changed, at the very start, they changed something in this town. Change is what Placerville is. So this idea that you have to fix it in time and set it in glass and put a cone over the top of it, I don't think it's the city that they've landed in. The city's history is in good hands. It's being protected by the private property owners. It's being protected by the government. We are just making improvements where we need them. Could you imagine a fire up on Clay Street and everybody trying to drive down Clay Street under the freeway and across that bridge? Think about that for 2 seconds. That time's up. Think about it. That would be a problem. We have enough narrow roads that would be a hazard, and Patty's been beating this drum like crazy. We protect the history. We are very cognizant of the history. No one is playing fast and loose with it. And so anyway, oh, and by the way, this new thing now, this new thing now with the Soda Works and the jackhammers, that's just a new thing that's been tossed out there. We are going to go through, people do construction projects by old buildings all day long. And they don't fall over, they don't collapse, they don't break, they don't do anything. The dang Soda Works has been there since 1860 when they literally used to mine underneath it. And it's still there. Let's give this town a little bit more credit for being hardy, and it'll survive. It'll be fine.
Okay. Lena, you want me to read the question again?
No, thank you though. I first want to start out by thanking you, Patty, for all the work that you've done, for the years that you've done it, and before that, your husband. A fabulous job. And sitting on a board is a thankless position, and there's a lot of things that happen on boards that a lot of people don't know about. So, criticism is unfortunate, but there's a lot of things that do happen, and people have to make decisions that don't necessarily sound correct, but there's reasons behind them. So I appreciate both of your efforts on that. Historical preservation of our community is huge to me. We are growing as a community, and we're changing as a community. We cannot deny that. I'm so grateful for the community that I live in. The majority of the people that have spoke to me want to preserve fixing our sewer lines, filling in the potholes. Buildings are a very complicated, convoluted situation. You never know what's going to happen until you get into them. So when you get in there, and some things can be saved and some things can't, we need to utilize the resources, the true resources of the historical committees to give us that input and utilize it in our city. There's many people here who have lived here for so long that have seen so much change. It's up to us to preserve what we have, but build tastefully. We have to work in the new people. We have to work in the amount of people. But I think that preserving our history is huge, because people come here to tour, and if we're talking about our tax dollars, our tourists need to see that. They love the quaintness. I think that we need to look at that look and feel, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done with that. So it's very convoluted, and again, I really appreciate your guys' efforts on that over the years.
Kara?
I think we all love Placerville's history. The beautiful buildings downtown make this a really special place. I think the best way to honor our history is to live in the buildings, work in the buildings, and enjoy them. And I appreciate the efforts of the Taylors at the Hangman Trees building. No relation, by the way, to me. I also appreciate the efforts of City Council on the Arts Council lease on the ketchup and mustard buildings to reutilize those. I don't think that preserving our history and staying relevant are mutually exclusive terms. In terms of staying relevant for the future, we need to attract and retain young families and young professionals, people that are going to invest 30 years of their career here. That means that we need homes for them. We have a lot of low-income homes and affordable housing, and we have a lot of high-priced homes. We need homes. We need to increase inventory of homes that are in the $200,000 to $300,000 range, so that young families can live here. We need to think about the next generation of workers when it comes to public transit and what type of places they want to live. Having walkable streets, having apartments downtown, things like that. I know that the general plan allows for a lot of these things. I think that we need to be promoting the potential that Placerville has for increasing new homes and buildings and apartments and mixed-use spaces. Thank you.
Okay. Dennis?
Would you be so kind to repeat that question for me?
Yes. How would you protect and honor our historic past while facilitating appropriate growth so our city can remain relevant and vibrant?
I like that word vibrant because I believe we are vibrant. And I think that has occurred because we have grown and we have expanded and we have invested in our community. This town is a working town. We have banks, we have dry cleaners, we have pharmacies, we have hardware stores. People come to our town, not as tourists, but a lot of people come to our town as residents who still believe in this small town. People are moving to this community because of this small town. So to me, it's a matter of balance. It's a matter of how do we grow? How do we grow our community and provide the resources that people need, whether it is housing or whether it's developing businesses that will help support our tax base, that will help run the engine that keeps us going. Because this is, the way I look at Placerville, this is our town. The people that live here, this is our town. This is our roads, this is our water, this is our sewer systems, this is ours. And we get to decide as a community how we want to live and be here. And that is so critical in how we learn to grow and learn from our past. We have grown and we have developed this town over the years. And if we hadn't, we wouldn't be who we are right now, as vibrant as the town as we are. And some of that relies on the Planning Commission and how the Planning Commission looks at new development. For instance, Home Depot came in, looked at this idea of this really, brought a rather plain-looking Home Depot. The Planning Commission pushed back several times to really get a Home Depot that looked good, that fit our community. And so there's a lot of opportunity for our Planning Commission and that's an important role in our Planning Commission to help develop our town that way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're running out of time. We just have enough time for closing statements from each candidate. And
We started over there.
she started. So because of our time limitations, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Patty,
You start with me again.
I'm going to start with you again.
Okay. I've really enjoyed this evening and being given the opportunity to answer questions you have regarding where I stand on issues that are affecting our city, and meeting and hearing from the other candidates. I hope your questions and concerns were addressed and you will continue to support me. As happens with all aspects of life, sometimes we have differences of opinions. I am open to hearing and discussing all sides of an issue and hopefully arrive at a satisfactory decision. My contact information is readily accessible on the city's website. The city has many long-term issues that have been and are currently being pursued. I have a wonderful working relationship with our staff, and my years of experience provides me the ability to aid in achieving many of our goals. You, our citizens, are my first priority, and I will continue to work for you and the betterment of our city. Placerville has a bright future. The challenges are there, but with your help in re-electing me, we can overcome most all adversities. The rewards are seeing and experiencing the results. I want to take this opportunity to thank the League of Women Voters of El Dorado County for hosting the candidate forum for Placerville City Council. It certainly is a wonderful opportunity for our citizens to obtain valuable information in making their voting decision. It takes a lot of preparation time to prepare and present this forum, and I appreciate it. Once again, I ask for my constituents' support and vote in the upcoming election. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming tonight and giving all of us your support.
Okay, John?
We also thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and the folks up here on the dais, and then all of you who have watched this. I love Placerville. I grew up in a town much smaller than Placerville. It's hard to imagine, but I grew up in a town that only had 2,500 people, and for the longest time, not a single stoplight. It was a mill town. My father worked in a sugar mill his entire life. I moved up here because Placerville bred my wife. I fell in love, and I married the person, and we just came here because it was nice. I raised a family here. I sent my kids to school here. I've done everything. I buy most of my bought meals on Placerville, or in Placerville, and most of them on Main Street. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I speak my mind. I say what I need to say. I use humor sometimes, maybe too often. I think I've done a real good job as a city council member, and I don't mind telling you that. I try to listen to everybody, and I do listen to everybody. I know there's some folks, some of them in the audience tonight, that don't believe that, but I actually do listen to everybody. I work hard at it. I'm on a number of committees. I spend as much time in Sacramento representing the city as I do up here. This town is a jewel. It is a beautiful place. Like I said, I go to all sorts of different towns, and I thank God that I don't live in most of them. I make my decisions. I'm a pragmatist. I'm a fiscal conservative. I make my decisions based on money and logic and the facts that I can obtain. I try to cut through the nonsense, and I will challenge people if I think that I believe they are talking nonsense. And I expect them to challenge me if they think I'm doing the same thing. It's not easy, but I've enjoyed it. It's the best job I've ever had in my life, and I calculated one day, and I think we make $2 an hour if you considered it as a full-time job. I know, it's amazing. It is the most satisfying thing I've ever done in my life besides raising my family. I really would like to do this for another 4 years. I don't imagine anything after that, but for 4 more years, because there's a lot of challenges. We didn't even talk about the unfunded liability situation that this city faces, which will bankrupt it if we do not come up with some cash real soon. And there's some other issues as well. Anyway, thank you very much. God bless all of you, and I humbly ask for your support in November.
Okay, thank you. Lena?
I just want to thank everybody for coming this evening. I know that it takes a lot of time and effort to come out and listen to all of us. I am so grateful for everybody who's sitting on this panel tonight. A lot have education and have been doing this for a long time, and some of us are new to the city on a council board. It takes a great effort for anybody to sit here and do this kind of work and speak for you. That being said, I want to thank you, the Women League of Voters, for doing this. Just the name alone speaks volumes for women and growth in voting. I work in technology, so I have a battle of my own. But that being said, I'm really grateful for this opportunity to sit here with you folks. My job and my positions on boards have always been your voice. Sometimes, as a board member, I might not value and see everybody's opinion on a board, but the goal is to listen to every single person in the audience and come up with a good agreement that way. So just because I have an opinion doesn't mean it's the right one. With your vote, I will be your voice. It's our job to listen to you. So if you ever have any questions or concerns with me or with the city, and you ever have any questions, I am available on Kincaid, or you can find me on the city, and I'm definitely available by phone.
Okay, thank you. Kara?
Thank you, everyone, for being here. When I started my businesses, I did not know what I was doing. I learned on the job, and the Placerville community was incredibly supportive of me during this time. I realized that being new to politics, I'll have a learning curve here too, and I'm certainly not privy to all of the knowledge that Patty and John have, having served on the city council for so long. I know what I don't know. I will listen to the community, the experts, do my research, and bring myself up to speed quickly. Over the years, I've proved to myself and everyone that knows me well that I am creative, resourceful, hardworking, and good with money. If elected, I'll prove that to you too. Unlike many of the other candidates, I did not grow up in Placerville. I chose to make Placerville my home and to raise my family here because it's such a special place with amazing historic character and tons of potential. There are challenges that Placerville faces: old infrastructure, public safety and homelessness, increased risk of wildfires, growth and changing demographics, and eroding public trust. My priority on City Council will be to improve quality of life for existing residents, not residents that may move here later from elsewhere, but for you. I want to see connected sidewalks and safe roads so parents can let their kids walk to the park and to school in downtown with confidence. I want to see projects funded through local, state, and federal taxes that we already pay, with a preference for not increasing expenses. I want a downtown that I feel safe walking to my car when I get off work at night. I want our wonderful bike trails to be safe and free of drug use so families can enjoy them. I want small businesses to thrive and be able to attract and retain talented employees. I want residents to feel like they can trust their elected officials to keep them informed and work on their behalf. And I want the community to feel like they have a hand in shaping Placerville's future through civic engagement. I would be honored for the opportunity to serve and represent you at the City Council. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dennis?
So I'd like to start with a little story, or finish with a little story. When I first met Wendy, my wife, who is obviously you all know her, she's on the City Council. It was 2011, and at the time I was seriously thinking about wanting to run for City Council. And it was probably one of the downsides of marrying Wendy is that she was already on City Council and I couldn't run. I really wanted to, my goal back then was to run in 2012 or 2014, and I decided to support her, and she has done an amazing job, an absolutely amazing job as City Council and as mayor. And so I decided to put my efforts at other places. I got involved with the county fire, and I was elected to that position. I've been there for 6 years, and I think I've done a really good job helping move that organization in a very positive way financially. They still have challenges, much like the city's going to face with the unfunded liabilities, and I think I have a great education in dealing with those finances to help assist the city in that direction. I have spent my time over the last 20 years working from the grassroots perspective. I have been involved in various commissions that have helped move the city in a positive direction. Going back to the Main Street project done in the 90s that helped develop the infrastructure, not the infrastructure, but the lighting and the garbage cans and all the things that make downtown really beautiful right now. I believe that being involved in my whole adult life in the city has prepared me to take on this position moving forward. And I would appreciate your vote going in here on November 6th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aaron?
So I appreciate the opportunity to even be a candidate, turn in my paperwork to the city, get 20 signatures and actually my name go down in history in the books. This has been quite the opportunity to learn. What I can say about myself is that I love learning. I've been educating myself for a long time. I've got an open mind. I like to hear all sides and then come up with an evaluation of what would be best. I do adapt. I have 4 kids. I do go to school full time. I go to college. You know, I sit on the chair, and so I feel like I can bring a very valuable piece for the fact that I'm a new set of eyes. I'm easygoing, and I just want to be a part of what's going on in our city. And it's kind of important to play a role in the government that we are a part of, the Constitution, and voting. Believe it or not, I boycotted voting for years. I felt it didn't matter, and my one vote wasn't going to change anything. But as I went through college and educated myself more, I realized that it did matter. And in realizing that sitting in a public position was bigger than I thought it could be. So having the opportunity to sit on the city council, learn a little bit more, because we all can learn something new every day, and if you're not, you might have problems. So please support me as I go forward, and hopefully we can really push forward in the endeavor to make Placerville a wonderful place to live and continue to grow, because you guys have done a good job. And thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you very much. You may now applaud. Now I'm going to give a little commercial. We're giving 3 more forums. The next one is October 4th at the historic Cool Hall in Cool, and it's going to be between Lori Parlin and Michael Rinaldi for Supervisor District 4. Then on October 8th, El Dorado Hills, the CSD board will have us doing a forum for their candidates. And then in Pollock Pines on October 15th, the Supervisory District 5 will have the 2 candidates, and then also a forum for the recorder clerk position, and that'll be between Janelle and Todd White. So that concludes our forum. I hope that you will all take it all very seriously, think hard. Yes? Three. Yeah, sorry, we should have made that clear. So this has been designed to help you learn more about who your candidates are, and the important thing is to go to the polls or fill out your mail-in ballot and vote, vote, vote. If you'd like to, if you have an interest in joining the League of Women Voters, we may, I don't know, do we have any brochures? No. You can go to our website, which is .org. Okay, lwveldorado.org. And there are on the table flyers, posters, pieces of paper, which that I printed out, telling about other websites that give you a lot of information about all the candidates everywhere. So pick that up, because that's very useful. And the League of Women Voters also, they have a lwvc.org, and they also have a website called Voters Edge. And they have evaluated the 12 propositions. They've evaluated 9 of the 12 propositions. So you'll be able to read what they said and put that into your head and decide what you're going to do. Okay? Thank you.